The modern man has conquered technology, science, and comfort, but he has lost something essential: the meaning of life. We've never had so much progress, and yet we've never been so empty. Carl Jung realized that the greatest problem of our time is not the lack of knowledge, but the disconnection from what gives purpose to existence. Science has explained the world, but it has eliminated the mystery. Reason has taken the place of spirituality, but it hasn't filled the void. People no longer just seek answers, they seek meaning. And if we continue to ignore this crisis, what's left for us other than nihilism and eternal dissatisfaction? But there is a way back. And in this video, we will explore how to recover what was lost and rescue the soul suffocated by modern materialism. The psychic regression of modern man. Modern man likes to boast about technological advances, science, and rationality that shape the current world. However, if we stop to observe, something essential has been lost along the way. Despite all the digital connectivity, loneliness has never been so great. Despite unlimited access to information, wisdom has become scarce. What's happening is a psychic regression masked as progress. While the archaic man lived in harmony with nature and found meaning in every aspect of existence, the modern man sinks into a fragmented reality where everything is functional, but nothing is meaningful. Technology has advanced, but the human soul has shrunk. This regression didn't happen overnight. It was a subtle, almost imperceptible process where the search for the useful and the practical replaced contemplation and mystery. Today, human beings distract themselves with screens, algorithms, and instant consumption, unaware that they are drifting away from their very essence. Carl Jung already warned of the danger of a society obsessed with reason and material progress, as it suffocates the deeper aspects of the psyche. Modern man believes he is freer than his ancestors, but in reality, he is trapped in an invisible maze, where everything is measurable, but nothing is felt. If you doubt this, look around. People are always busy, but rarely satisfied. They chase money, status, and comfort, yet live anxiously and without direction. In the past, the archaic man saw existence as a great flow, an interconnected fabric of meanings and symbols. Today, everything is segmented, individualized, with no real connection to something greater. And this is the greatest paradox of our time. The more we advance in technology, the further we move from what truly matters. But is there a way back to this lost balance? The dogma of scientism and existential void. Modern man has learned to trust science blindly, as if it were the only legitimate source of knowledge. Everything that cannot be measured, tested, and reproduced in a lab is dismissed as superstition or fantasy. But this mentality comes at a price: the loss of the meaning of life. When everything is reduced to brain chemistry, body function, or evolutionary processes, what is left but matter? The ancient man found meaning in spirituality, myths, and rituals. Modern man, on the other hand, finds himself surrounded by logical explanations but without a greater purpose. This dogma of scientism has eliminated the soul from the debate. Religion and spirituality have been pushed into the realm of irrationality, and any attempt to seek transcendent meaning is seen as an escape from reality. But look at what's happening. We've never had so many medical advances, and yet, depression and anxiety rates are through the roof. We've never known so much about the brain, and still, the feeling of emptiness only grows. The problem is not science itself. It has brought undeniable benefits, but the idea that it can answer all questions. Human beings need more than facts, they need meaning. This explains why so many people today feel lost, even though they have everything they theoretically should want. The comfortable house, the stable job, unlimited access to knowledge, and yet, a deep feeling that something is missing. The ancient man didn't need so many stimuli to find meaning in existence. He saw the divine in nature, in the cycles of life, in the mystery of consciousness itself. Modern man, by rejecting all of this, finds himself condemned to a cold world, where everything is explained, but nothing makes sense. But is there a way out of this void? The search for meaning in modern society. Carl Jung noticed something unsettling. Many people didn't seek therapy to treat mental illnesses, but rather to find meaning in life. This may seem strange at first. After all, isn't therapy supposed to address trauma, neuroses, and anxieties? But the truth is that, deep down, these pains are often symptoms of an existential crisis. Modern humans have lost their references. In the past, religion and traditions offered a clear path. Today, each person must create their own purpose, but without a reliable map. This generates anguish, doubt, and constant psychic fatigue. It's no coincidence that religiosity began to decline just when psychological disorders skyrocketed. Modern man has distanced himself from the rituals that anchored his existence, from the narratives that gave meaning to suffering, and from the sense of belonging to something greater. Now, he finds himself alone, desperately trying to fill the void with consumption, work, and technological distractions. But none of this solves the central question: why all of this? Why keep fighting when, in the end, life seems like nothing more than a series of obligations without true purpose? Jung understood that the meaning of life cannot be given from the outside in. It must be discovered within each individual. But this requires the courage to look at oneself without filters, to confront deep fears, and to rebuild a connection to something that transcends cold materialism. It's not a quick or easy process, but it is the only way out of apathy and disillusionment. Modern man may have lost his old certainties, but that doesn't mean he must live without meaning. The problem is that he continues to search for it in the wrong places. The causalist worldview of modern man. Modern man believes that everything can be explained by logical and measurable causes. He looks at the world as if it were a gigantic machine, where each event is a direct result of another, with no room for mystery or purpose. If something happens, there must be a scientific explanation for it, and if there isn't, he simply assumes we haven't discovered it yet. But this way of perceiving reality is limiting. In the past, the archaic man saw meaning in events and understood that not everything could be reduced to a simple just because. He realized that life wasn't just a mechanical sequence of events, but a flow filled with symbolism. This difference in perception may seem abstract, but it has very practical consequences. For example, when something bad happens in modern life, a failure, a loss, an unexpected challenge, the first reaction is to seek a rational explanation. It was bad luck, I made a wrong calculation, the market is down. The ancient man, on the other hand, saw these situations as part of a greater order. He sought to understand what it meant within a broader context. Not that he was naive or superstitious, but he understood that not everything needs to be explained literally. Symbolism helped give meaning to difficulties and find growth in them. This brings us to an essential problem in modern thinking. It fragments life into disconnected pieces, eliminating any sense of unity. Everything is seen in isolation, as if there were no deep connections between events. But anyone who has experienced transformative moments knows that certain coincidences seem to go beyond chance, that certain encounters change destinies, and that certain crises teach lessons that no logic could foresee. Modern man may continue insisting that everything is just causality, but deep down, he feels something is missing from this worldview. The symbolic perception of the archaic man. The archaic man didn't see the world as a pile of isolated facts. To him, everything carried a deeper meaning. An animal crossing his path, a troubling dream, an unexpected event, nothing was random. He understood that life spoke through symbols, and this perception guided his existence. Unlike modern man, who seeks cold, rational explanations, the ancient man knew how to read the signs of the world. This doesn't mean he lived bound by superstition, but that his way of seeing reality was more integrated and meaningful. He felt part of something greater. This way of interpreting life brought something modern man has lost: a sense of belonging and direction. While today, people feel lost and disconnected, in the past, they saw their existence as part of a natural flow, where everything had a reason to happen. The seasons, the cycles of the moon, birth and death, everything followed a rhythm that made sense. Today, we live bound to the clock, productivity, and immediacy, not realizing we are swimming against the current of something much older and essential. We've lost the ability to see beyond the obvious. This explains why so many people desperately search for some form of meaning, whether in superficial mysticism or in ready-made philosophies that promise easy answers. Deep down, modern man misses this symbolic vision but doesn't know how to recover it. Carl Jung saw this and brought the importance of archetypes, the unconscious, and dreams as ways to retrieve this lost connection. After all, the language of the soul has never been made of numbers and statistics, but of symbols, metaphors, and deep meanings. The problem is that many no longer know how to decipher this language. The wisdom of the ancestors and the decline of the collective consciousness. The ancients did not accumulate knowledge merely out of curiosity. Everything they knew came from careful observation of nature, the cycles of life, and experience passed down through generations. These were not just stories or empty traditions, they were maps that guided existence. Carl Jung understood this very well. For him, ancestral wisdom was not a collection of superstitions, but a treasure built from the collective psyche. The problem is that modern man has rejected this knowledge in the name of progress, not realizing that, in doing so, he destroyed his own inner compass. The result of this distancing? An exaggerated individualism, where everyone must reinvent the wheel without any solid reference. In the past, a young person had teachers, rites of passage, and a structure that prepared him for adulthood. Today, most people grow up without any real guidance, learning about the world from internet influencers and algorithms that prioritize what grabs attention, not what teaches. The ancient knowledge has been replaced by fleeting opinions, and the cost of this is a fragmented, anxious, and lost society. This doesn't mean we should live like our ancestors, rejecting modernity. But completely ignoring their wisdom is a fatal mistake. There is a reason why fairy tales, mythologies, and spiritual teachings have lasted for centuries. They speak directly to the human unconscious. When modern man rejects all of this, he doesn't become freer. He simply loses essential references. The question is there still time to recover this knowledge before the void becomes irreversible? Materialism and the crisis of meaning. Modern man has learned to measure his worth based on what he possesses. Status, money, material goods, all of these have become synonymous with success. But the problem is that this logic creates a trap. The more he has, the emptier he feels. This happens because the human need for meaning cannot be filled by things. Materialism promises comfort and security, but delivers only a fleeting illusion. And when this illusion fades, all that's left is the feeling that something is deeply wrong. The crisis of meaning did not arise by chance. It is the price of a society that traded depth for superficiality. Carl Jung already warned of the danger of a life disconnected from the soul. When spirituality and the symbols that gave meaning to existence were discarded, only the worship of the immediate remained. Modern man has become a consumer of quick pleasures, trying to drown his anguish with distractions. But this never works for long. Look around, we've never been so comfortable, and yet we've never been so unhappy. Material abundance hasn't prevented the rise of psychological disorders. In fact, it seems to have worsened the situation. The reason? What's missing isn't the having, but the being. The irony is that, deep down, human beings know that materialism is not enough. So much so that those who reach the peak of success often dive into existential crises. They realize that all external achievements don't solve what's broken inside. And that's when the search for meaning truly begins, usually after much pain. But must we reach that point to see that we're heading in the wrong direction? The spirit of the time and the suppression of spirituality. Every era has a dominant belief that shapes the way people perceive life. In the past, that belief was spirituality, a sense that human beings were part of something greater. But starting in the 19th century, a new dogma took its place: scientific materialism. Technological progress and scientific discoveries brought immense advancements, but they also imposed a worldview where what cannot be measured simply doesn't exist. God was taken out of the equation, and with him, spirituality was suffocated until it became an uncomfortable topic. This phenomenon didn't happen forcefully. It was subtle, like a mist that slowly obscured the perception of the sacred. Today, any mention of spirituality is met with skepticism or reduced to a psychological phenomenon. Modern man has been trained to believe that everything can be explained by cold, impersonal logic. But this has created a vacuum. Ancient traditions provided answers about the purpose of existence, the meaning of suffering, and the role of the individual in the universe. Materialism, on the other hand, offers only the promise of directionless progress, leaving people without a true north. The impact of this change can be seen everywhere. People live to produce and consume, but feel that something is missing. Science advances, but the fundamental questions of existence remain unanswered. Modern man may ignore spirituality, but he cannot eliminate his need for meaning. At some point, he will confront the inevitable question, now what? Where is all of this leading me? But before he can grasp the real depth of this question, the world will have already provided him with another distraction. The impact of materialism on modern society. Modern society is built on the promise of infinite progress. It is believed that with more technology, more comfort, and more scientific advancements, all of humanity's problems will be solved. But reality shows something else. The more the world advances materially, the more people feel anxious, overwhelmed, and purposeless. Materialism promised a paradise on earth, but delivered a maze of constant dissatisfaction. Human beings, once guided by transcendent values, now find themselves trapped in an endless search for security and stability that never seem to be enough. This model of life generates a deep fear of destruction. People live as if they need to protect their achievements at any cost, fearing to lose the little meaning they have constructed for themselves. The result? A society in a permanent state of tension. The fear of financial crisis, the terror of loneliness, the anguish of finitude. All these fears intensify when there's nothing but materialism to sustain existence. Carl Jung had already warned of this danger. Without a solid internal structure, modern man becomes a leaf in the wind, vulnerable to any external change. And there's an even crueler detail. Progress didn't bring the expected peace. On the contrary, it increased the sense that something essential is missing. It has never been so easy to obtain comfort, but dissatisfaction only grows. The existential void has become a silent epidemic, and many try to fill it with excessive work, compulsive consumption, or constant distractions. But what happens when all of this fails? What remains when technology and material progress can no longer anesthetize human anguish? The ugly world and the disenchantment of life. The ancient man looked up at the starry sky and saw a divine spectacle. The world was filled with hidden meanings, Every tree, every river, every mountain had its own sacred essence. But modern man has lost this capacity for enchantment. Science and materialism have ripped the mystery from existence and replaced it with cold, mechanical explanations. Today, the universe is seen as a cosmic accident without purpose, and life, as a succession of biological processes without greater meaning. The result? A world without beauty, without soul, and without poetry. This disenchantment reflects in everything, in the cold architecture of cities, in industrialized music, in superficial communication. The aesthetics of the modern world are functional, but not inspiring. Little matters if a building is beautiful, as long as it's efficient. Little matters if a song has soul, as long as it goes viral. Human beings have surrounded themselves with concrete, artificial lights, and screens, and now wonder why they feel an inexplicable void. The answer is simple. They traded the sacred for the utilitarian, and the spirit cannot survive in a world where everything must have a practical purpose. Modern man feels that something is wrong, but doesn't know exactly what. He numbs himself with entertainment, distracts himself with consumption, but deep down, he senses that he has lost something essential. What was once lived with reverence and meaning is now reduced to data and statistic. But is there a way to reverse this degradation and recover the lost meaning? The path to recover the meaning of life. If modern man has lost the meaning of life, it's because he has disconnected from something essential, the symbolic dimension of existence. Carl Jung realized that human beings cannot live solely from logic and pragmatism, they need meaning. But this meaning is not found in the excesses of consumption or in the relentless pursuit of success. It reveals itself when we learn to see beyond the surface. This means reclaiming spirituality authentically, not as a set of ready-made belief. It means learning to interpret the symbols that emerge in dreams, experiences, and the challenges of life. The first step in this reconnection is to stop treating life as a machine and start seeing it as a living organism. This requires slowing down, observing, and feeling. Instead of seeking quick answers, we must ask deeper questions. What does this mean for me? What is life trying to show me? Spirituality doesn't need to be tied to a specific religion. It can simply be a state of presence, an openness to perceive that there's something beyond the immediate. Jung himself said that those who ignore their soul end up becoming slaves to external circumstances. But this change doesn't happen overnight. Modern man needs to learn how to spiritually re-educate himself. This can be done through contemplation, studying mythologies, reflecting on one's own dreams, and reconnecting with nature. Small actions can transform our perception of reality. Observing a sunset without rushing, listening to music that touches the soul, reading something that expands our consciousness. All of this helps restore a deeper view of existence. The question is modern man willing to let go of immediacy to reclaim something that was lost long ago? The search for self-knowledge is a continuous process that requires reflection and the willingness to see oneself more clearly. Carl Jung showed that understanding archetypes, the psyche, and the unconscious aspects of the mind is not just a theoretical study, but something that can transform the way we deal with our emotions, challenges, and daily choices. Those who ignore these aspects live trapped in repetitive patterns, without understanding why certain difficulties keep arising. If you want to deepen this knowledge and learn how to apply Jungian psychology to your life, my ebook introduction, Alchemy and Archetypes, Exploring Inner Transformation Through Jungian Psychology provides a detailed and accessible study on Jung's essential concept. In it, you will find clear and practical explanations to understand how the unconscious influences your thoughts and behaviors, along with ways to develop a more balanced and integrated consciousness. Download the ebook now and begin to explore your inner world in more depth. Check the first comment for the link. And if you want to continue learning, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to follow new content on psychology, archetypes, and personal development.